Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Khawla Barley, and I work as the Initiatives Development Supervisor at Special Olympics UAE, which means I have an amazing job. I have the pleasure of developing leisure and recreation activities for individuals with intellectual disabilities and autism. So today what I'd like to do is share with you some of my experience and tips for engaging individuals with autism in leisure and recreational activities and exactly what those benefits are. So what we're going to cover today is, first of all, why is leisure important? Secondly, how can we overcome some of the common obstacles to engaging individuals with autism in new and novel activities? And we're going to touch on, before we depart, some of the resources available here in the UAE. Now, why is leisure important? One of the things we learn from recreation and leisure, if you will, is social skills. And typically developing children learn an incredible amount of their social skills through play. Playing with others, playing in the neighborhood, playing with siblings, playing at recess, going to that football training in the afternoon. There are lots and lots of opportunities to learn and develop social skills through recreational activities. Learning physical skills. One of the reasons that any of us take up a new pursuit is to learn a skill. And lastly, but absolutely not least, is recreation and leisure activities allow individuals to learn things and experience new things, and this all contributes to a really healthy self-confidence. And this is incredibly important for individuals on the autism spectrum. Now, what type of social skills in particular are we talking about in recreational programs? First of all, communication. Lots of opportunity to communicate with new people, communicate verbally, communicate non-verbally, to practice social communication. Following directions. Again, this is a chance in hopefully a motivating environment, a fun environment to practice following directions, the direction of coaches, the direction from peers, the direction from teammates. These are all opportunities in a real world setting to follow directions. Cooperating, sharing a ball, passing a ball, giving your teammate a high five, waiting your turn. All of these opportunities present themselves over and over and over again in a fun and relaxed way. So, excellent way to learn to cooperate with others. I've included these two images to illustrate some of the social communication skills that develop through recreation. One of the best ways to learn about another person is to have a sort of a shared pursuit. And this is the concept behind what Special Olympics terms as unified programs. So what you're seeing here is a unified tennis pair. One of the athletes is on the autism spectrum, and you see him with the second athlete, who is his unified partner, who is a mainstream teenage tennis player. Now, these photographs were not taken on the first week of their training together or the first month of their training together. These two worked together over a series of many, many months, many hours of training and, playing matches and things like that. So, but what you do see after about, I think about 6 months, 6 or 9 months of training at this point, is you see a very bonded pair. They are communicating, they're very focused on one another. There's obviously like a back and forth. There's not one person, so the unified partner is not simply giving directions and the athlete on the autism spectrum is following, but there's this shared attention, gesturing of the hands. They're sharing a high five. So, I mean, this is the goal. It doesn't happen overnight, but in this environment where they're able to play together and share and have fun and learn new things, communication and relationships can really blossom. Next, physical skills. Again, simple things, kicking a ball. This is a simple skill, but again, it's a skill. Riding a bike, dancing. We could go on. Holding a paintbrush, learning to sculpt clay, learning to take a photograph with my phone. Any skill you can think of, you can learn it through a recreational opportunity. And again, this shows a very nice moment, authentic moment. And what you see is the athlete with autism and his training partner are practicing catching, which is a great skill for kids to learn. As you see, they have joint attention, they're focused on each other, they're learning, they have gross motor skills there, they're learning to catch a ball. This is obviously sort of an important recreational skill for especially a young child to be able to catch a ball. Never mind that they're catching a football. I mean, that's obviously a no-no, but this training partner is just using this opportunity to teach a skill, and that's a great decision. So how can this skill okay, so now I want to talk about these physical skills that can be learned through recreation. Their power is way beyond one skill. So in the example of playing basketball, many individuals with autism of all ages have come to recreational programs that I have worked with, and what you hear over and over again from parents is they hate sports. They're bullied in PE, or they won't participate in PE. They won't play with their cousins. They won't play with their friends. Like, I don't know what to do. And what we see many times is if these skills can be acquired in a supportive environment. So in other words, the recreational program, the individual with autism is set up for success. There is support. There is encouragement, there is support, and skills can be more easily mastered. So in the example of playing basketball, if we have an individual with autism who comes to a basketball program with no skills at all, and they're able to learn in this environment how to dribble a ball, how to pass a ball, they're able to understand what's happening on the basketball court. They slowly begin to understand that there's two teams, and some people run this way and some people run that way. And they learn this in the supportive environment. It allows them that confidence and that knowledge. So what we see happening is back at school, for example, in PE class or at recess, when they're then encountered with kids that are playing basketball or the basketball unit in PE, they have this knowledge now. They have this confidence. They say, yeah, I know that the ball goes in the hoop, and I know that some kids are going to run this way and some are going to run that way. That's okay. And they're much more likely to join in. And then they're positively reinforced by their teachers, and they're positively reinforced by their friends. And this, again, increases their confidence in school. The same thing can happen in the home environment. Again, if they have this skill and this understanding, they've mastered some of these skills, then they're much more likely to engage with siblings or cousins. And then obviously we hope that that expands out into the community, and very likely it will. So when the family is visiting other other friends that may not be very familiar, or you're in a park situation, that, or a summer camp, or any type of environment. If they see the basketball, they can recognize those skills and that team dynamic and feel much more comfortable joining in. So again, these single skills that are being learned in the recreational setting have a much broader impact in the overall life of the individual. Confidence is something that I wanted to touch on, and it seems intuitive, but I believe it's so important that I wanted to highlight the role that self-esteem and confidence plays in the lives of individuals with autism, particularly as they grow up and age. There is a lot of evidence and a lot of research that really highlights the negative effects of low self-esteem and lack of confidence. And it also hinders, so a child or a teenager or an adult with autism may intuitively find social situations and new activities very challenging. Now, if that individual also has extremely low confidence and low self-esteem, it makes it that much harder. Okay, so it's sort of a self-fulfilling, a snowball effect, if you will. An individual is hesitant to join in, so they feel less confident, and then they're less hesitant, more hesitant to join in the next time. So confidence and self-esteem really plays a very, very important role in everybody's mental and emotional well-being, and that, I think, goes double for individuals on the autism spectrum. So I wanted to share with you one insight from a young man, a 13-year-old Japanese boy who is on the autism spectrum. He's also completely nonverbal. And this young man wrote a book called The Reason I Jump, The Inner Voice of a 13-Year-Old Boy with Autism. And I do really recommend this book. I found it very, very interesting to hear this young man, reflect on his life with autism. And so he was asked at one point, would you like to be normal? And this was his response. He responded that for us, you see, having autism is normal. So we can't know for sure what your normal is even like. But so long as we can learn to love ourselves, I am not sure how much it matters whether we're normal or autistic. And I think that it's very important for parents and teachers, community members, all of us to recognize that normal, that typical, is extremely relative. What's normal for me is not normal for other people. It's not normal for some of my work colleagues. It's not normal for some of my other family members. It's my normal. And I think, as is illustrated in this statement, loving yourself and feeling confident and having confidence and self-esteem is the most important thing. So if we can help our children and our students feel good about themselves by knowing that they have engaged successfully in a new environment and learned a new skill and enjoyed the company of their peers and enjoyed new activities, and they have all of these skills and these experiences sort of in their tool belt, this is confidence, and this is self-esteem, and this is the strength. This gives them the strength that they need to be able to reach out to that new person and try that next new experience. So I cannot say enough about the role of bolstering confidence and recreation and leisure activities, finding your passion and finding a place where you can be successful is incredibly powerful. Again, a few pictures that just, I think, illustrate that confidence through expressions and gestures. If you see the young man in the top left corner, he has a medal that he's received for his football program. And he's clearly happy. He's clearly proud. And he's sharing that moment with his brother and his coach. But um, that feeling will translate into his home environment, that confidence, and translate into his school environment and to the next play date he has in the park, or the next time he meets someone new, or the next time that, his brother says, hey, do you want to play this with my friends and me? He's got that confidence to help him tackle that challenge. And again, I mean, you see the boys that have finished their race, the community race, and they've done that, and they don't have medals around their neck. They're not in first place, but they've accomplished this, and they've accomplished it with their community around them. And they have that sense of pride and that sense of confidence. So I think that these photographs just sort of illustrate that confidence, and how that gets, you can easily see how that translates out into other areas of their lives. Okay. So by now, I hope we are all understanding of the benefits of leisure and recreation in the lives of individuals with autism. But what parents in particular feel they struggle with is just how to engage. So many parents come to me and say, I would love my son or daughter to learn to play football, or I would love them to be able to actually compete in like a Special Olympic sporting event, but, and there's always a but. And I'm not going to read the diagnostic criteria of the autism spectrum disorder, but I wanted to include this section because it highlights that one of the criteria for an autism diagnosis is the presence of restrictive, repetitive patterns of behaviors, interests, or activities. And this often means that individuals on the autism spectrum thrive on sameness. They like things to be the same food, the same clothing. They like routines and can be incredibly inflexible to changes in their routine. Um, they wake up in the morning and they must eat breakfast before they brush their teeth. They must eat breakfast before they get dressed. And if for some reason one morning you wake up and say, we're running late, so I'm going to have you get dressed really quick and you're going to eat a granola bar in the car, that can cause absolute chaos because it's a deviation from this comforting routine. As well as many individuals on the autism spectrum tend to have very highly restrictive and fixated interests. And again, this is, a spectrum, but it is not uncommon to find individuals with autism who, like, for example, love insects. And they will watch insect videos and they will give you every fact about insects and they will draw insects and they will do just about anything if it's connected with insects. But if you want to talk about a cat or chickens, or you want to visit a farm, they are not interested unless you can highlight the insects. Others might be fascinated by cars. So they will watch videos about cars. They'll talk about cars. They'll, sculpt Play-Doh into cars. But if you want to talk about football or you want them to play a board game, that is not going to interest them. And this can become very limiting. So one of the best ways to overcome these narrow focuses and these often very rigid adherence to routines and patterns is to prepare for new activities. And it's important, I think, especially for parents to recognize that preparation will be necessary. There is sometimes an unconscious idea that recreation is fun, leisure is fun. So if something is fun, you don't have to work at it. But that is not often the case with individuals with autism. So there are a few ways that we can help prepare. One is modeling. So that's physically helping the individual with autism sort of experience some of what they're going to experience in this new activity. For example, if you feel that your son or daughter will benefit from tennis and you've signed them up for the program and they're going to start on a Thursday, maybe the weekend before you want to spend time showing them the racket, showing them how do I hold the racket, not necessarily teaching them, just familiarizing them. These are the balls that we use. Maybe talking about the role of the coach, role playing. Okay, I'm going to be the coach and I'm going to ask you to, hit this ball that I tossed to you. Giving them some familiarity with the activities that they're going to be engaging with. Another form of modeling is video modeling, and this can be incredibly useful with individuals on the autism spectrum who in many cases really respond to video and online content. YouTube has a wealth of videos, some of which are actually designed as video modeling for individuals with autism. So you can find a lot of resources there. If you are very ambitious, you can create your own by contacting the program director or the coach or the instructor, and maybe being able to get some video of that actual instructor, of the actual location, and sharing that ahead of time with your son, daughter, or your student. Another way to help them prepare is to create an activity schedule or a visual schedule. And again, even if your child or your student is not relying on visual schedules for, let's say, daily routines. Maybe they've mastered a lot of these and they no longer use them, they're a bit older. They can still be very helpful in preparing individuals for new environments. And I will add a note in that I find that even individuals that are highly verbal and able to converse and able to discuss ideas can still really benefit from these types of preparations when they are engaging in new activities. So a couple of additional preparations that I just want to touch upon. Again, preparing an individual for a new activity is highly individualized. You know your child or your student best, so you know how to tailor these suggestions to meet their needs. But I wanted to suggest two things that have been very useful to many families. One is the use of online or gaming simulations. So again, I'm going to use the example of sports because I just seem to be using a lot of examples and it works well here. But you could find simulations of different activities as well. But for example, if you have a child who is incredibly rigid and narrowly focused on video games, for example, and they really show no interest in sports, they're very resistant to new environments, it might be helpful to utilize a gaming platform like the Wii console, for example. They have Wii Sport and Wii Fit, where you actually, you swing the console like a tennis racket, and you make movements that are similar to those sports, and you're actually playing those games. So there is some familiarizing with the rules and the movements of each sport or fitness activity. And that can be a great bridge because you're using the platform that your child is highly engaged in, which is online and gaming, and you're introducing the sports into that. So it can act as a nice bridge. Another useful tool is visiting. And again, especially if you have your child is very resistant or has a lot of anxiety about new environments and new places and new things, then visiting a location ahead of time can be really very helpful. So for example, if you are engaging your child in, let's say, rugby, and that program is happening at Zayed Sports City. Well, a week ahead of time or a few days ahead of time, you can drive down, you can show them which pitch you're going to be playing on. And again, you can contact the coach or the program director ahead of time and get all the details and know where the location is, show them where you're going to park, how you're going to walk, if they're going to change, where are they going to change, show them all of those areas ahead of time. And if you're going to do something like this, it's also nice to maybe pair that with something that is motivating for them. So maybe you're going to go visit, Zayed Sports City, and you're going to see the parking, and we're going to look in the locker room, and we're going to walk out to the pitch. And then on the way home, we're going to stop at your favorite restaurant, or we're going to stop at your favorite park. Or we're going to do something that you really want to do, so that you're just starting to pair that very favored activity with the new activity. So those can be also very helpful. Okay, along with the necessity for preparation, one thing that's incredibly helpful for parents in particular is to recognize that recreational and leisure skills may need to be taught. So again, there is often sort of an unconscious belief that, okay, school skills need to be taught and life skills need to be taught and community skills need to be taught, but recreation is supposed to be fun. So if I have to teach it, then it means it's not fun and maybe my child shouldn't engage in it. And when it comes to individuals on the autism spectrum, that is often not the case. So for example, the photograph on the screen of the amazing basketball coaches just sitting with these boys. And they're literally just showing them the ball. So these boys are getting used to, this is the size of a basketball, sorry, and this is the firmness, and this is the texture, and this is my coach, and this is the basketball court, and these are the lines, and I'm just getting used to all of this information. And these coaches are taking that time. I mean, one of them literally has his hand over the other boy's hand, and he's just helping him touch the ball and recognizing that the first step in engaging in a ball sport is contacting with the ball and being able to hold that ball and move that ball and feel the texture. So this is not failure. This is an important step for many individuals with autism. Not every individual might need to incorporate this level of desensitization and such, but it's an important step for many, and it's helpful if parents recognize that that may be part of their child's journey. The other illustration shows a boy who's running in an aquathon, which is great fun for kids. They run along the beach, but again, some individuals with autism may come to the beach and not recognize that, we're going to be running together, and we're going to be running in a certain route, and we're going to be running, a certain distance. And they may, want to run in circles, or they may want to kick the sand. And so it takes a moment to help them understand the structure of the event. And it doesn't mean that they're going to have less enjoyment in running with the group. It just means that it's unfamiliar, and they need to be taught that this is the structure of this activity, and then they will determine if they like it or not. Again, as individuals with autism age, they may still need the support of family members to ensure that they are engaged in leisure activities. So, in other words, typically developing children are often supported a great deal when they're very young. They're signed up for football, they're signed up for ballet, their parents take them to all of these things and support them through it. But as they get older, they begin to sort of take the lead. And they begin to ask their parents, oh, I'm thinking about joining the football team. What do you think? Or, hey, my friend is taking, swimming lessons, and, I never learned to swim, and I think I'd really like that. Or, hey, my teacher says I'm really good in art. What about, could I find a class to take? But individuals with autism may not take those proactive steps. And it is important to recognize that just because your 15-year-old with autism is not requesting an activity doesn't mean that they won't derive pleasure from that. So you know your child best. You've observed their activities. If you observe that they are, really highly engaged when they play football and they love it and they're high-fiving people and they, their face lights up and they are clearly good at it. They hit goals and this is a good activity for them. And yet, okay, they're 15 and they're not saying, oh, I want to go play football or I want to find a football team. Try to support them with that. Okay, recognize that yes, you want to promote independence, but you still want to be there to facilitate, if you will. And one way you can do that um, is following, different social media groups so you stay abreast of what activities are happening. Make sure you're connected with an autism support group so that you have contact with families of kids of similar ages and maybe similar interests so that, again, you guys can work together to either create opportunities or stay aware of what opportunities. I always say to parents as well, do not rule out being proactive. If you do not see in the community what you feel you want for your child, go out and make it. 9 times out of 10, if you are interested in this activity, other families will be also. So reach out to organizations. I right now am working on training cricket coaches and hopefully finding support within the sport of cricket for individuals with autism and intellectual disabilities because parents brought that to me as a need. And they were unable to organize it on their own and they asked for help and it was something I could do. So that's being worked on. Volunteer groups can also potentially help. You can reach out, never hurts to ask and say, hey, myself and a few other families, we have children on the autism spectrum and we really want support in helping them do XYZ. And the other thing that I think as parents in particular we need to do is just ensure that we are recognizing any limiting beliefs that we hold. So in other words, if your child is not as involved in recreational activities or sports or, leisure pursuits, if you will, why is that? Is it because your child genuinely will not enjoy it? Or are there some fears or beliefs on your part that are interfering with that? Are you concerned that it might be hard to involve them? Are you concerned about their, rigid adherence to schedules and that this isn't going to work? You can prepare for that. Are you worried that maybe they're going to have a hard time? So again, keep those feelings and those maybe subconscious beliefs in check. Okay, now very briefly, I'm going to go over some of the recreational resources in the community. I do want to highlight one of the programs of Special Olympics UAE. It's a new program, and I think it will have a really big impact across the UAE, which is the Unified Schools Program. So we are currently working with all public and private schools across the UAE to implement unified sports and arts programs. So involving individuals with intellectual disabilities and autism with their mainstream peers in supportive recreational activities. So what I encourage every parent and every teacher to do is go to your school, go to your child's school, go to their center and say, are you involved with Special Olympics Unified Schools Program? And if they say yes, get in contact with who's in charge of that and find out how your child can get involved. If they're not involved, then please encourage your school or you yourself reach out to the UCS at specialolympics.ae and let them know. Look, I'm a parent at this school and I'm really interested in how I can help sort of spearhead this Unified Schools program. Some of the activities under the umbrella of Unified Schools are Unified Football and Basketball Leagues. that were incredibly successful this year. The unified football was piloted in Abu Dhabi and unified basketball in Dubai, as well as a unified robotics, which again it's non-sports, but it is a team environment. So kids who are interested in STEM, have a chance to work on a team and have that team spirit and that camaraderie and that excitement of competition. So again, if you're interested in any of those activities, I would say first point of contact would be your school, or if you have a community sports program that you're involved with, contact them, ask them, are you involved in Special Olympics? And if not, please have them or you yourself reach out to any of these addresses, and hopefully we can help support you in getting that going in your area of the country. Now, the other resources that I've posted here will be available to you online. You'll be receiving an email that has those links to these resources, and you can contact these organizations on your own. They all work with Special Olympics, so their coaches are trained. Their programs run in cooperation with us, and they are very comfortable with working with children on the autism spectrum. As well as I have provided a few support groups for parents. So these are great ways for you to connect with other families and also just sort of stay aware of what's happening in the community, because these resources are, by no means all of the resources. So it's really important to stay connected within the community. All right, thank you so much. I have run over in time and I apologize for that, but thank you for staying with me to the end. I really appreciate that, and please stay in touch. Special Olympics and myself, we are absolutely here to support the inclusion of everybody on the autism spectrum in some type of recreational activity. So please get in touch and find out how you can become involved. Thank you so much. Take care.